Welcome back to our second segment of our episode, still under the topic, how can I handle failure or rejection but still trust God's plan?
Yes, actually, as we go into that one, there's quite an interesting question here. It says, how does God bring out something beautiful out of brokenness and failure?
I'm sure we're all familiar with refinement of like minerals, and you take the raw material, then afterwards you refine it, then at the end it like gains value. For example, diamonds. You need to put diamonds under pressure in order for it to be something valuable and something useful. So I think it's the same thing with us. We go through all these trials, all these tribulations in order for us to become better beings, because we are raw at first, because we have so much sin and our hearts are deceitful, Then we need to go through that process of sanctification, justification first, of course, of us being better and our hearts being made pure through God, of course, not our own doing. So, yeah.
Actually, one of the disciples, when he writes, he says, when I go through this crucible, I will come out as pure gold. So it's actually, and if you see in the Bible, I feel like it's a pattern that God has. Look at people that are in the genealogy of Jesus. You've got people like Solomon. You've got people like David, those who failed a lot, but God brought out something beautiful out of that. So I think it's within God's character to show us that even when we have failed, he loves those who are looked down upon.
Even Adam, the first man in the genealogy, what did he do? Said, took the fruit from Eve, ate it. Then afterwards he realized that this is something bad that I did, and went to God, and everything was okay.
And these people then become people that we can learn from. Exactly. As we're reading the Bible and we're seeing, the sins David committed or whoever, but how they become better people at the end of it all. We then learn from these people. So, yeah.
And there's a lot of people who then see those failures and they say, no, but if David did it, who am I?
Which is wrong.
Yeah, that's the wrong mindset.
Right. Then there's this interesting question. It says, why does failure feel so personal?
I think Michael talked about it earlier. When you've set a certain goal for yourself, if you want to achieve this and you've been working towards that goal tirelessly, there'll be a test at school. You've been working tirelessly, not reaching that mark, not achieving that goal. It's bound to feel personal. It's bound to, you even start asking yourself, okay, why me? Because there are people I studied with who did excellently well. So it's bound to feel personal because you put your all into it. But remember that you don't know everything. So God knows the plan he has for your life. We talked about Jeremiah 29 verse 11 earlier on. God knows the plans he has for your life. So there's a reason, sometimes you brought it onto yourself, maybe it isn't enough. But if you've been working tirelessly towards that goal, it's bound to feel personal. But remember that God knows what he has planned out for your life.
Right. So this person should take note that it's not failure, it's redirection.
Exactly.
Yeah. Someone here says, how did biblical figures like Joseph or David deal with rejection?
I think Kosi already talked about Joseph. I'll talk about, David. David was quite an interesting character because as the king, I would remember this story of him where he saw something and wanted it so badly.
And as it is.
Yeah, he saw something, so I'm saying it as it is. He saw it, was like, no, you know what, I want that thing and I'll have it by fire, by force.
Right.
And he took the wife of Uriah to be his own, and did things with her. Yeah, of course. Then, what was the question, by the way?
Yeah, how did the biblical characters deal with failure or rejection?
Oh, then afterwards, when he was rejected by everyone and when he was rejected by God, I remember him pleading with God. But you know what? I am human. God, I understand with you have such a great purpose for me, but I am human. I still sin at times. The lusts of the flesh, they get the better of me, which is something that we face as well. But we have to realize that we have strength to be able to overcome anything. At times, we have the strength on our own, and at times, God gives us the strength to be able to overcome the thing. And at times, God is the one that does it for us.
Yes.
So I have to realize that it's either I'm doing it, God is empowering me to do it, or God is the one tackling that problem for me.
Actually, quite interestingly, one of my favorite authors says, if David had remembered Isaiah 54 verses 10, when he was running away from Saul, he wouldn't have felt like he has to lie or deceive anyone. So I think sometimes the reason why when we're in rejection or in failure, we end up doing other things, it's because we do not remember the promises that are actually in the scripture. Right. So I think holding on to those promises, helps us to actually withstand even within those failures.
I think the other problem is we tend to cover sin with more sin instead of going back to God. It's very hard to go back to God, that's the truth.
Dig a deeper hole.
Yeah. As much as we say, you know what, pray about it. Read the Bible, it's hard to reach that realization that you actually need to go back to God.
And sometimes you actually realize it late after having fallen into more sin.
Yeah.
There's another question that says, what does it look like to keep moving forward in faith after a setback?
This is you saying, you know what? I don't know, Lord, I don't know what you have planned for me, but I'm going to trust you. I think we need to talk about the how part of trusting.
It's not easy to trust God.
It's very hard. But this is you saying, Lord, I'm going to trust you. Stay strong in prayer. Yeah, stay strong in prayer. And you're saying, this that I was working towards didn't work out. I don't know why, but I'm moving forward. I'm moving forward with you. I'm keeping you at the center of this work that I'm doing. Right. And I'm just going to trust you completely. So, yeah.
But then how do you pray when your mind is messed up? If you sin, you also feel guilty for your sin. So how do you set your mind into that mood whereby you have to pray? Even though you're still deep in sin, but you realize, no man, I need to change. What do you have to do in order for you to be in that mind? So to realize and go back.
It goes back to what we mentioned before. I was telling someone the other day that the only sure word that is there in this universe is God's word. The only promise that you can ever actually trust. Because I can say something, she can say something. How many of us have broken our promises? I think we all have. Even the people that are watching this have broken a lot. The ones that we've kept are actually fewer. But God keeps all of his. So the first thing is to identify the promises that he has for us. Those are in the word. And then so even when you've sinned, you look at Psalms chapter 51, where David is asking God to say, wash me and I shall be whiter than snow. So then when you're praying and say, Lord, David asked you and you did it for him, do it for me as well. But if you don't even know those promises, how are you going to claim them?
True. I think another important thing is your surrounding. Have friends that actually drive you closer to God, not away from him. Your surrounding matters the most in order for you to grow spiritually.
Very true.
Yeah, because if you have friends that are diverting you away from the Lord, you're not going to be able to go back. Then there's another question that says, is it okay to be honest with God about our frustration? Per se, you have failed and you're frustrated.
Yeah, definitely it is okay. Because who else will you tell? When
who
something
else is
better
going to help you?
Yeah, who else will help you? I can tell
comfort in other people.
But then is it enough though?
Are they going to help you?
Temporarily. And you'd think that they helped you, but then in the long term,
you want that permanent solution. That is why you should go back to God. Because I remember, I think it's Peter when he talks about casting all our cares to God. And Christ himself saying, Guti, come to me only who are heavy laden in labor, so that I can give you rest. So we need to go back to God, because remember, we are having a relationship with God. How can you have a relationship with someone you're not open with? If you're not open with God and honest with him, how can you have that relationship with him? So in order for you to develop that relationship, in order for you to grow as a person, you should be honest with yourself and honest with God and tell God, God, this is a situation, this is not happening to me and I want to grow. So kindly help me to be able to grow.
It's like any relationship, really. If Kanya and I are friends, how is our friendship going to grow if we're not honest with each other? So, yeah, it's okay.
You need that point of vulnerability. You cannot say you love someone if you cannot be vulnerable with them. You cannot say you love God if you're not open with God. It cannot happen.
I think there's also that nice hymn. I really like that hymn. It says, I tell him all my sorrows. I tell him all my joy. I tell him all that troubles me. I tell him what I know.
Yeah.
So I think also we also, God, there's certain things that God won't do unless we say them. We actually have to ask. We can't say, Lord, you know my heart, yes, but tell him. You know, also when you're, when you're confessing, maybe it's me, but when I'm confessing some sins, I'm like, Lord, you know what I did, huh?
All of us
Say it out. Yeah.
I did this and this and this, and I'm sorry. Even in your frustration, you say, Lord, my family is stressing me. I don't understand why this person is doing this. Say it. And I think it reduces the probability of you going to gossip to someone else because you've already told God everything.
Sometimes it's not really frustration, but then it's guilt. Sometimes you feel very guilty, and then now to fall back in the Lord when you're feeling that guilty, how does one then ensure that they fall back to the Lord after they felt very guilty and don't want to face him?
I think you need to forgive yourself first. It's hard to forgive yourself. That's the thing. It's very hard. But when you sin, of course you feel guilt. So you have to first forgive yourself. How do you do that? You ask God. It's weird to say it like that, but you have to ask God to be able to
remember, the enemy is always going to remind you what you have done.
And he does, he does all the time.
This is that opportunity.
And then
over and over again.
That promise now. So when the enemy reminds you, you say, the Lord said, if I'm forgiven, I'm forgiven. Why are you reminding me? Yeah. There's also a question here that says, it reminds me of Isaiah 40:31. It says, how do we actually wait on the Lord in difficult times? Let's talk about the how part. I feel like we're how. Okay, I'm in a difficult position. Nothing is moving. I have tried everything. How do you actually wait on the Lord?
That's a tricky one.
You keep praying. You're still in the same position.
It's the same. Nothing is changing. How do you wait?
I think that's where your friends come in. You have to talk to your friends. It's easy for me. So, okay, go to God. But then my relationship with God is like strained. So I cannot go to him freely. It takes me time. So first of all, you should come to God and try to cause Pella, this happened. So,
and then
I think that's the first step.
Actually also going to pray for you and like sort of strengthen you.
Yeah.
But I also think it also comes with having a peace. With waiting, you have to be peaceful while you wait. So it's literally that. Even though things are tough, you just say, okay, fine. Let's just, composure. Demure. Mindful.
Yeah.
Just, remember his promises.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much for watching this episode. Now catch us on our next episode when we tackle more throbbing issues.